Hello, Charles Dickens. It's Mr. Smith here on a beautiful sunny afternoon here in my garden. And it's Good Friday. I don't know whether you've heard of Good Friday before, but Good Friday is one of the days that's really important to Christians. One of the days that forms part of Holy Week, which is what we're in at the moment. And that means Good Friday. It means that on Sunday, it's going to be Easter Sunday. And today, we're going to be doing a puppet show. I'm going to be putting together some puppets, and I'm going to tell you the story of Holy Week, the story of Jesus, and the story of how he came back to life, which is quite amazing, really. Before we do that, I thought I'd show you how you can make some of these puppets at home, because it's really quite easy. So my wonderful other half has made lots of beautiful pictures of characters for us to use. Now, you can make these yourself, and you can actually do this for any story. It doesn't have to be the Easter story, but obviously that's really important at the moment. And you might decide that you want to recreate part of the story I'm telling today. So you could make some characters yourself at home. All you do is draw them on a bit of paper or a bit of card. You cut them out around the edges. These are wonderfully neat. They don't have to be this neat. And then it's really simple. I've got Jesus here. You can tell it's Jesus because he's got a big halo on. You take Jesus, or whoever you've got, turn them around. You put a little bit of blue tack on the back like that. You get a pencil from your wonderful colouring pencils. And then you just pop the pencil on the back like that. And there you have it. A puppet that's ready to go, which is amazing. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to do all of these. And then I'm going to tell you the story of Easter using these wonderful puppets. Let's go! Done. Hi, so I made my puppets. They look amazing. I'm really excited to use them. And I've got my story ready that I'm going to tell. So before you do your puppet show, it might be a really good idea if you wrote down the story you were going to tell, so you don't have to keep it all up here in your brain. This figure is Jesus, the main man of the story. And you can tell it's Jesus because he's got this funny circle around his head that's called a halo. And whenever you look at a painting or a picture and you want to know who the really important, the really religious, the really holy people are, you just look for that halo. So I'm going to tell the story, I'm going to use the puppets, and you can do the same thing at home. Jesus arrived in Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. The people were happy to see him. Here he is on his donkey. So Jesus arrives in Palm Sunday, and here are the people. Hooray! Here comes Jesus, our hero. There he is, and they're all holding palm fronds, which is like a branch from the palm tree. Some important people were jealous of how much the people love Jesus. We're jealous, incredibly upset that Jesus is more popular than we are. And these people, they're called the Pharisees, and they're very much the bad guys in this story. So, Judas was one of Jesus's special friends. Oh, hi Jesus, how are you? Yeah, tremendously well, thanks, just arriving in Jerusalem. Brilliant, great. So Judas was one of Jesus' special friends. The important people gave Judas money to tell them where Jesus was so that they could arrest him. If you tell us where Jesus is, we'll give you lots of money. Gosh, that sounds like a great deal. Thank you. Okay. Super. Happy people as well. Jesus had a special dinner called the Passover meal. So Jesus is in Jerusalem and he's going to have a special meal with all of his followers. So here are his followers. You can see they've all got a plate. And this meal, this is called the Last Supper. And it's really important. So Jesus is going to have a Passover meal with his friends. And the meal is called the Last Supper. Jesus gave his friends some bread and wine. And he says, the bread is my body. And he says, the wine is my blood. And that's something Christians still do every Sunday. They have bread and wine to represent Jesus' body and Jesus' blood. So he then tells his group, one of you will turn against me. Oh my goodness, they're thinking, who's that? But actually, already, someone in that group is thinking, oh no, he's onto me. So Judas is pretty worried, carrying his silver around at that point. Jesus also says to one of his followers, one of his friends, this is Peter, and he says to Peter, Peter, you're going to betray me. And that means you're going to go against me, you're going to do a bad thing. You're going to tell people that you don't know who I am. He says, you're going to betray me 3 times before the cockerel crows in the morning. And back then, this is how they told the time. They had a chicken, like a cockerel that goes, cock-a-doodle-doo. So Jesus says to Peter, before the cockerel goes cock-a-doodle-doo tomorrow morning, you're going to betray me 3 times. And Peter says, oh no, ha ha ha, no, don't worry, that's never going to happen. Well, we shall see. After supper, Jesus goes with his disciples to a place called the Garden of Gethsemane. Here we go, beautiful garden as you can see. And Jesus, whilst he's there, he kneels down beneath a tree and he prays to God. And he says, I know what I have to do. I know I'm going to be killed, unfortunately, but I need your strength and I need your help. Judas, meanwhile, goes back to the Pharisees and says, hi guys, just to let you know, Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane. And they're like, oh brilliant, this is our chance to go and get Jesus. We're going to send the guards round. Okay, back in the Garden of Gethsemane, here's Jesus praying. Judas turns up. I've lost me Judas, there we go. Judas turns up, but not alone. He comes with the Roman soldiers. Oh no, thinks Jesus and everyone else. And Judas goes over to Jesus and he kisses him on the cheek. And that shows the Roman soldiers, oh, there's Jesus. So, what do? They arrest him. And they take him away. And they take him to be tried by a man called Pontius Pilate. Meanwhile, Peter has escaped. So he's no longer in the Garden of Gethsemane. He's escaped. And some people come across Peter and they say to him, oh, I recognise you. You're one of Jesus' friends. He says, no, not me. Sorry, Governor. That's not who I am. And they go, no, I'm really quite certain you are one of Jesus' friends. And he says, you really are quite mistaken. I am not one of Jesus' friends. No, seriously, I'm not joking. You are one of Jesus' friends. No, seriously, I am not. And then what happens? What do we hear? Cock-a-doodle-doo! Just as Jesus had predicted. The cockerel crows. And Peter, he realises Jesus was right all along. He really must have been special if he was able to predict that was going to happen. So off they go. Right. Okay, so there's Jesus. He's been taken to the palace to be tried by a man who was in charge. And the man who's in charge of Jerusalem at the time is called Pontius Pilate. So here's Pilate, and he accuses Jesus of all sorts of things. But he says, you may have been going around telling people that you're the king. You may have been going around irritating the Pharisees. But it's not enough to kill you. I don't want to kill you. Uh-oh. The crowd does not like that whatsoever. It's a very angry crowd indeed. And they say that actually they want to see Jesus killed. They are furious. They think that he's been making all sorts of things happen and doing what's called blasphemy, which is where you go around telling people that you're the Son of God. It's really quite a big crime. So the crowd is very angry. Pontius Pilate looks at the crowd and he's a bit worried. He's not entirely sure that crowd is going to be very kind to him. So he decides to give the crowd a choice. There are 2 criminals on trial that day, Jesus and a man who's a thief and a murderer called Barabbas. And so Pontius Pilate has this idea. He thinks, I'm going to let the crowd decide who dies. Crowd, do you think it should be Jesus, this guy, or Barabbas, the evil thief and murderer who dies. And I think he's probably expecting the crowd to say, evil, horrible Barabbas. The crowd says, Jesus, crucify him, crucify him. Goodness me, thinks Pilate. Well, I've made my promise, so I best let Barabbas go free. Lucky old Barabbas, there he goes. And the crowd insists on seeing Jesus crucified. So that's what Pontius Pilate has to do. He doesn't have any choice in the matter. So, poor old Jesus gets sentenced to be crucified. Right. Jesus has to take his own wooden cross with him all the way up to the top of the hill at the very height of Jerusalem. And the whole time he's moving, everywhere he's going, people aren't being very nice to him at all. People have really turned against Jesus in Jerusalem. They're being horrible. They're insulting him. They're hitting him with things. They're spitting at him. Absolutely horrible. So Jesus has to take his cross all the way up here to a place called Golgotha, place of the skulls. Okay. So Jesus is up there in Golgotha, and unfortunately this is what we think about, or Christians think about, on Good Friday, and that's Jesus' crucifixion. So that means that Jesus was nailed to that cross on the top of Golgotha to die like a criminal. Oh, he doesn't want to be on the cross. I don't blame you, Jesus, but unfortunately the story would be rather different if you weren't going to be on the cross. So you really do have to stick to the cross, I'm afraid. So Jesus dies on the cross, and whilst he's there are lots of people around him. His friends and even his mother is there. How do you think they were feeling? Probably really sad, really upset. This person who they really like, who they're friends with, who they've got to know, he's died. That's absolutely terrible. That's really sad. So, luckily, something amazing happens over the next couple of days, and that's what we're going to look at now. Jesus' body is taken down from the cross and is put into a tomb. So we're going to put it into a tomb just there. And a tomb is a big space, like a grave, where you would put a body after it's died. A huge stone is rolled in front of the tomb, so no one could move this stone. They had to get 3 or 4 soldiers to come along and move this stone in front of the tomb. On the 3rd day after he died, which is Easter Sunday, so this is Good Friday, and then we have Easter Saturday. Nothing really happens on Easter Saturday. No one's around because it's the Sabbath. And then on Easter Sunday, Mary and a couple of other women, they come along to the tomb because they need to get Jesus' body prepared. So they're going to wrap it in some nice cloth and pour some nice smelly oils in it. So they come along to the tomb. But, oh my goodness, the stone's been rolled away. And the tomb, well, it looks like it's empty. So in they go, into the tomb. Oh my, seriously? It is empty. Does this mean someone's taken Jesus' body? Does this mean that someone's gone somewhere? Does this mean that Jesus isn't there anymore? Well, luckily, here comes someone to answer their questions. It's an angel. An angel comes down. An angel is like a messenger, someone who sends a message from God. So down comes an angel, and they tell the women that Jesus has risen from the dead. Wow. And they've got to believe it because it's coming from an angel. I mean, you would know. Look at that. You know if you saw an angel. So they believe them. And she goes off to tell the other disciples about what's happened. And then Jesus appears to them again from beyond the dead. So Jesus comes along and shows himself to the disciples. And that is the kind of really amazing, magical story of Easter Sunday. And that's why Christians say on Easter Sunday, they say, he is risen from the dead, because he died on the cross, he went into the tomb, and then he rose again from the dead. And that's quite an amazing story, really. After he'd visited his friends and he'd gone around, he told them what they needed to do next. He told them how to go and spread the message of this incredible story. Jesus, 40 days afterwards, he ascends, which means he went up, and he went up into heaven on Ascension Sunday. And that, more or less, is the story of Easter. So what happens? On Good Friday, which is today, Jesus is tried by a man called Pontius Pilate, found guilty. The crowd want to see him crucified on the cross, which is what happens. He takes the cross up a hill. He dies on the cross, and lots of people are very sad about that. And so that's Good Friday. And then on Easter Saturday, nothing really happens because it's a day of rest. It's called the Sabbath day. And then on Easter Sunday, Jesus, from his tomb, rises from the dead and comes back to life. And so when Mary goes to find Jesus, he's not there anymore. He's gone. He's disappeared. Which is amazing. And Christians believe that's because Jesus was the Son of God. So he had the power to come back from the dead. And so for the next 40 days, he travels around. He goes to different towns and villages and appears to people. And then after 40 days, Jesus ascends up to heaven. And that's the story of Easter Sunday. And now, you can retell a part of that. So you could make your own cross, or your own Jesus, or your own Mary or Pontius Pilate, and retell that story maybe to your parents or to your brothers and sisters. Or you could choose another story to retell using the same method, but make sure you always write your story down so you've got your notes there. I hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed making those puppets and putting on this show for you, and hopefully I'll see you again really, really soon. Have a wonderful Easter, and I'll speak to you later. Bye, guys.